Welcome to Vintage SF. I'm Richard Rempel, and I'm just back from a long road trip into the United States. In the trailer for this video, I mistakenly said that we went through 5 states. It was actually 7 states. Traveling from Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada, that's in the middle of Canada, we traveled down through North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, eventually Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. Now, we didn't stop in every state. Some of those states we were just simply driving through. But we did stop at a number of places. Some places to visit friends from YouTube, booktubers, you might say. We also visited, and when I say we, I'm talking about my wife and I, we also visited 2 viewers of the channel, viewers that I've connected with in real life. There's lots of sightseeing and 14 different bookshops. I didn't buy a book at every single one. There was, in fact, 2 bookstores that my wife bought a book and I didn't, showing some restraint. But I came home with a lot of books. Some of them gifts, but many of them purchased at those used bookstores. So this will be a bit of a travelogue and a book haul combined. I call these monthly summaries people, places, and books. This is for the month of November 2025. After driving 2 days, our first stop was Boulder, Colorado, just north of Denver. Here I met up with fellow YouTuber Bart from Bart's Bookspace. We went on a short hike with him. I couldn't believe that I was losing my breath because we were a mile high. In Winnipeg, I think we're about 780 feet above sea level, but where Bart lives, we were in the 5,000s. It's a beautiful place. After I finally caught my wind after that hike, we drove around town, stopped at a coffee shop, and then went to some bookstores. The one I'd like to tell you about is a used bookstore called The Bookworm. This is one of Bart's regular haunts, and they had really good books here. It's one of those larger used bookstores that you might see. I'll talk about some of those as we go into Arizona. As far as I know, though, this one is not a chain. Here, I found one book. This one is The Space Machine. Oh, it's very shiny here. Let's try it at that angle. It has a Brodart cover, that's why. The Space Machine by Christopher Priest. This is a U.S. first hardcover edition. And it came out, let me take a look here, in 1976. This is a first printing. It was dedicated to H.G. Wells. And it says briefly here on the inside flap, in this diverting adventure thriller set in Victorian England, Christopher Priest has written an action-packed tour de force that takes H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds and enlarges it into a whole new dimension. I won't read further, but I'm very much looking forward to reading this one. And it just is a beautiful, beautiful hardcover. The other highlight in terms of books, Bart gave me a book. This one is called On the Origin of Species and Other Stories by Bo-Young Kim. I have never read Bo-Young Kim. It says here that the fiction is groundbreaking, mystic, literary, and cinematic experience, powerful and graceful. I'm really looking forward to picking this one up. I do read a few contemporary books, and this will be one of the ones that I read probably in January. Thanks a lot, Bart. I really appreciate it. From Boulder, we drove down into New Mexico to Santa Fe, where we met up with one of my viewers, Paul Cooper. We went to 2 bookstores, and the one that I want to highlight here is Book Mountain. This is a bookstore that was started, I think it was about 1980, by a lady named Peggy Frank. She had just been in a horrific car accident and changed careers, became a bookseller. She had a model where she was selling books for half cover price and purchasing them for a quarter of the cover price. Of course, there were some minimums, and it still is that way to today. But Peggy was not able to operate the store any longer. She needed to retire. What did she do? A couple of years ago, she gave away the store. She wanted to continue that tradition of her bookstore, the affordability and the connection with the community. She had many people who were interested, but finally she found one, Nathan Center, who took over a few years ago. She gave him the store's stock of books, and of course I'm sure he assumed the rent from that point forward.
I'm Nathan. This is Book Mountain. This is where the contemporary fiction is. This wall is what we call the prolific popular, or the airport books. If you go to the airport, this is what they're reading there. The normal humans are here, and we alphabetize by author, but it's in columns, so top to bottom, not left to right. And the store just goes on. We're a little bigger than people realize. Here is the southwestern section. Local interest or local authors. Here, children and young adults. I apologize for the crates of books. We move a lot of inventory some days. Here are manga, graphic novels, and some gaming stuff. Down here we have biographies and memoirs. Cookbooks are over the sink because I didn't know where else to put them. Here's all of our nonfiction. Now this is not alphabetized, but it is organized in sections. And then this way, this room is all of or most of our genre fiction. It starts with romance. This includes inspirational romance, so God made you do it. It also includes paranormal romance, so the devil made you do it. Either way, you did it. Kind of jumps from this corner and continues down through the middle of the store. Here's where we start science fiction and fantasy. We have a lot of it, and it wraps around, comes all the way down here, and runs into the beginning of mystery. On this rack is where we have the Westerns, Louis L'Amour and his pals, as well as classics, literature, and philosophy. Here is religion, spirituality, Eastern thought and tradition, how the aliens built the pyramids, and we're all going to die in 2012. Poetry and theater is here. Nothing here is alphabetized because, well, it's poetry and theater, and poets and actors don't really mind. And around the corner is just overflow of science fiction and fantasy. And that's pretty much Book Mountain. Is there...
Can you tell us, we're here in Santa Fe, and so where are you in Santa Fe? What's the address?
Oh, we're at 1302 Osage Avenue. We're right at the corner of St. Michael's Drive and Cerritos Road.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Enjoy yourself.
Okay.
You can see that he has a love for books just like Peggy did, and it's really a pleasure to come into this store. Now, Santa Fe is somewhat of a science fiction hotbed. You might know of Roger Zelazny or George R.R. Martin living in the community. There were other science fiction writers as well, and because of the scientists who were close by, from Los Alamos, etc., there just seems to be lots of science fiction books there. For a detailed look at the books that I purchased at that store, you can go to a live stream I did with Chris of Liminal Spaces. Here's what the thumbnail looked like. The image was referring to the TV show Pluribus, which has scenes at the Sprout stores in Albuquerque. The live stream itself, though, is about book buying in Albuquerque. We only touch on Pluribus at the end of the video. Just prior to the end of the video, though, I tell you about Book Mountain, a little bit about this story that I just related to you, and I show you all the books that I purchased there. Let me just show you the stack here that I have of them. As you can see, I have a number of hardcovers here and some soft covers on the top. One of the ones that may be a highlight to many people is The Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. This is a science fiction book club copy, and it was in great shape. Now, I kept the receipt from Book Mountain because I wanted to talk about it. I had brought in 9 books, and I was receiving almost $25 in credit. And then going out, I had 6 hardbacks. They were $4 each. That includes The Book of the New Sun. So that was $24. I had 2 old paperbacks. Those were $3 minimum. And then I had one that was a little bit more expensive, a book, The Color of Distance. And so that one was charged at $7.50. So after they took away the credit that I had, I was only paying $10.50. If you leave out The Color of Distance, those 6 hardcovers and 2 soft covers were $27. If you happen to go through Santa Fe, I highly recommend Book Mountain. Now, as I said, I was there with my friend Paul Cooper, who was a viewer. He and I have talked a lot online, also through email. I met him last year when I came through Santa Fe, and this year we got together again. He gave me a pile of books as well, and I'm going to talk a little bit about those. These I didn't show on Chris's channel, so these were gifts from Paul. This first one here might be one of the best covers that I got while on vacation here. The Trouble with Tycho by Clifford D. Simak. Very interesting cover. It's a very thin book too. I've recently been reading Cordwainer Smith, and so he gave me a collection of short stories, Star Dreamer, from 1971. This one is a Beagle Boxer science fiction story collection. I'm not sure if I have any other book that's a Beagle Boxer. Paul also loves a series of books by Barry Huart, and he wanted me to read these. Now, I trust Paul and his opinions here. We have some very similar opinions on a lot of books. This is fantasy, and I'm not used to reading fantasy. But because of Paul's recommendation, I think I will be reading these books. At least I'll start with the first one by Barry Huart, Bridge of Birds, a novel of ancient China that never was. The second is The Story of the Stone. And the third one, Eight Skilled Gentlemen. One that wasn't a science fiction book that he wanted to give myself and perhaps my wife is Eat, Shoots, and Leaves. An interesting book about punctuation. I'm not sure if there's a message there for me. Theodore Sturgeon's Thunder and Roses. This one here is from Michael Joseph in London, and this is from 1957, and it's some short stories. It's a beautiful little hardback. And the last one here that I have is All the Traps of Earth and Other Stories from Clifford D. Simak. Let's take a look at when this book was published. This is from 1962, and here are the stories within. So thank you very much, Paul. It's very generous of you. I appreciate it. Hope to see you again. I hope you take care, my friend. From Santa Fe, we continued on down to Albuquerque for night. Now, I've talked about Chris of Liminal Spaces. He lives in Albuquerque or close to Albuquerque in Rio Rancho, and he was not home at that time, so we were just passing through. We would check in with Chris later on our way back to Canada. But Chris had given us some recommendations of places to go to. We were traveling from Albuquerque to Flagstaff and finally to Phoenix. Along the interstate from Albuquerque to Flagstaff, there were a couple of places we wanted to see that Chris had recommended. There was the Petrified Forest, and there was Meteor Crater. So on the way out, we took in Meteor Crater. This was one of the highlights of the trip for me, at least sightseeing-wise. Just east of Flagstaff, Meteor Crater is a well-preserved impact crater, approximately 50,000 years old, which measures nearly a mile in diameter. It was formed by an iron-nickel meteorite approximately 150 feet wide. The crater itself was 560 feet deep. This is one of the best preserved impact craters on Earth because of its age and because of the deserts of Arizona. As I stood on the rim of the crater, I just marveled at the amount of debris that must have been ejected into the sky upon collision. They could even figure out the angle that the meteor hit because it pushed up the Earth and you could see a double layer of strata. So you would see the strata that you would normally see in the history of the Earth, and then on top of that, in reverse, the strata again. That's how they can date it back to about 50,000 years ago as well. If you can make it part of your trip through northern Arizona, I recommend it highly. From there, we went through Flagstaff to Phoenix. In both Flagstaff and Phoenix, and eventually in Tucson, there is a chain of large used bookstores called Bookmans. And so we visited the one that was in Flagstaff on our way down to Phoenix. Now, I'm not going to show you all the books that I picked up at Bookmans, but let me just show you a couple series that I was collecting. Just about all of these came from Bookmans. These were the annual World's Best Science Fiction. These are DAW editions. These are the hardback editions. Now, there's one soft cover here as well, and somebody did actually brodart a soft cover. I found that kind of interesting. I don't know, do any of you put brodart covers on your soft covers? I'd like to hear how that goes. Anyways, this is the 1979 version of the annual World's Best Science Fiction. I understand that they didn't create a hardback edition of this year. If you know if this is true, can you just comment below the video? I'd just like to confirm that there's no hardback edition for 1979. Otherwise, I think it's from 1972 to 1990, we have these hardbacks. And you can probably see over my shoulder here, I've been collecting them. So I think I only have one more to find. The other series that I was collecting were the SF Rediscovery series. And so I was able to find a couple more of those. The other place that I went to when I was in Phoenix was Half Price Books. It's another one of those large used bookstore chains. There were two in Phoenix. I went to one specifically because last time I was there, I met one of the managers. She actually spotted me and recognized me from my YouTube channel. Her name is Locke. We got to have a great conversation, just a brief conversation. She was at work, and I hope sometime in the future to perhaps bring Locke to this channel. I'm thinking that both Paul and Locke would be great interviews or great conversations to potentially have on this channel. Now, I haven't broached that with either of them, but stay tuned. Perhaps you'll see more of them in the future. The one book I want to mention that I got from Half Price Books, Science Fiction Art from 1926 to 1954 by Lester Del Rey. At least it's edited by Lester Del Rey with a large introduction. And it really is a book that is just featuring art. There's a caption on one side and the artwork from different magazines on the other side. I do want to do a flip through of this book sometime in the future. Watch for that video. One other group of books that I've been collecting that I just want to show you as well are the Tor doubles. So a double, just like the old Ace doubles, and these were in the 1980s. And so I picked up a couple of these. The last few Tor doubles didn't flip anymore. They just had both on the cover here, and some of them had a sequel to an older novella. And so that was kind of interesting to see one story from, say, the 1950s or 60s, and then another story written as a sequel to it. All right, so that's Phoenix. Then we were off to Tucson, and as I said, we visited some of the bookstores there that were Bookmans. There was also a couple of independent bookstores, and one I want to mention is 4th Avenue Bookstore. It's right near downtown Tucson. It's one of those smaller bookstores, which sometimes has some treasures. Here's one that I've never seen before. In fact, I never knew existed. I picked up Listen to the Echoes, the Ray Bradbury interviews by Sam Weller. Apparently Sam Weller has written a biography of Ray Bradbury, which I haven't seen as well. But this was very interesting. I read this quickly on the vacation. I will get to a review of this coming up on the channel pretty soon. Some of the highlights of Tucson, where we stayed for 2 weeks, were some of the hiking and biking that we did, watching sunsets from Mount Lemmon, going to the Biodome 2 just north of Tucson. The Biodome was a facility originally created to see if people could survive in a closed-off system. Could they grow their food? Could they maintain their air? Were they able to get along with each other for long periods of time? The first group that came in there, I believe, was staying there for 2 years at a time. Now, there were some problems with it, and if you go and see the tour of the Biodome, you'll hear a little bit more about it. Right now, it's owned and run by the University of Arizona, and they continue to do climate experiments there. It was fascinating. I tried to imagine living there for 2 years or longer. We visited a couple of museums in Tucson, but just generally enjoyed being outside, quite a bit warmer than it was in Winnipeg, Manitoba at that time in November. Then we started to make our way home. As we drove to Albuquerque again, we drove through the Petrified Forest. This is a national park in northeastern Arizona known for vast deposits of petrified wood and the colorful badlands of the Painted Desert. It preserves millions of years of history, including Triassic fossils and human artifacts dating back 14,000 years. You can drive through the park and go through very interesting hikes. We went to the Rainbow Forest Museum on site, and we took a hike through Blue Mesa. This park is otherworldly. From there, we continued on back to Albuquerque to see Chris. Now, a lot of people know Albuquerque for the TV shows that have been shot there, like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and now Pluribus. But they also have some great bookstores. I just want to highlight a couple here. The first was Downtown Books. Now, this is one of my favorite type of bookstores. It was in sort of an unorthodox space. There was kind of a kitchen and some closets that were all filled with books, and then the main room. There's books stacked in different places. I love those kind of bookstores, but it was still very well curated. And in there, I found a book that I'd been looking for on this vacation, Vernor Vinge, Across Real Time. This is an omnibus of 2 novels. Now, I was looking for this book because I'm going to be doing a buddy read in January with Bart of Bart's Bookspace, Whitney of Secret Sauce of Storycraft, and a viewer named Dale. But one of the things about this book that was really interesting, and this was the most expensive book I purchased at $20, is that we have Vernor Vinge's autograph here. To Matt with best wishes, Vernor Vinge. Now, you might be able to see that there's 2 different ink colors here. Well, I looked up Vernor Vinge's signature and his writing, and both are, according to my inexperienced eyes, of course, legit. They matched his writing. So I don't know if something happened in the signing of the book where he had to change pens. But anyways, it was sold as a signed edition as well. I was very pleased to get this. It's the first edition of the omnibus. The 2 novels printed in this omnibus are The Peace War from 1984 and Marooned in Time from 1986. Another place we went to is called Under Charlie's Covers. That's where I found this shirt. Books, because reality is overrated. Let's see, if I turn around, you should be able to see the back of this as well. Let me actually go upwards here so perhaps you can see it. Actually, my wife purchased it for me. And one of the books that I found there was Forbidden Area by Pat Frank. Pat Frank, you might recognize as the author of Alas Babylon. This one was written before that one. It was published in 1956, and this is a first edition. Forbidden Area is a tingling novel which deals with the near future, the atomic age pushed to its limits of sanity. Sounds like it has some of the themes that we find in Alas Babylon. So, here's the bookmark from Under Charlie's Covers. I'll make that big on the screen for you to see. By the way, I talk about that live stream with Chris. I think that may be one of the best live streams I've ever done. Chris and I really worked well together. There was a chemistry there in terms of showing the different books that we were giving each other and the books that we purchased here in Albuquerque. While we were talking, at times there was over 60 people online with us. And then afterwards, the video itself has had almost 1,500 views, at least as of the recording of this video. So after we said goodbye to Chris, we were heading back to Canada. We were going through Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota. In those states, we didn't stop at any bookstores, but I did stop at one more bookstore before coming home in Fargo, North Dakota. It's called B.D.S. Books, Quality Used Books. And there's a sign there that they have a sale right now. Let me just pull that up. Thank you for 30 years of business. Get 30% off all book purchases through December 31st, 2025. So if you're watching from Fargo, or if you plan to travel through Fargo in the next month, please stop by. You can tell Brad that you heard about it here on Vintage SF. Now at B.D.S, I picked up one of those World Annual Best DAW collections of SF, one of those hardbacks, and also I picked up another book which is connected to the books that Chris gave me. I haven't shown you any of those because they're in that live stream, but I'm going to show you two that he gave me now, and the third one came from B.D.S. Chris was kind enough to give me The Snow Queen by Joan D. Vinci, and the cover, I know we got Brodart here again, the cover is by Leo and Diane Dillon. And there's a second book in the series called World's End by Joan D. Vinci, Volume 2 in the Snow Queen cycle. This also has a Leo and Diane Dillon cover. And if you're wondering what at the time Joan D. Vinci looked like, there you go. So these are part of an acclaimed series. This one here, I believe, won the Hugo Award. I'm not sure if it won the Nebula as well. These also were first editions. And then, when I came to B.D.S. books, I found the third book, The Summer Queen by Joan D. Vinci. This one has a Michael Whalen cover. So it's great to get that. And I believe there's a fourth one, which I haven't found yet. But it was really cool to pick up all three on this trip. From there, we headed home to snow, to freezing temperatures below zero, even in Fahrenheit. Well, only 4 more months of winter here in Manitoba. So that was my November. Quite an exciting month. Now, in November, I really didn't read too many books, but I'm looking forward to reading a lot here in December. Oh, and I should mention, another great book was just released. I don't have a copy yet. I'm filming this before the release party on December 5th. I'll be part of a live stream where we talk about a book called Weird Frequencies, edited by Jake Swick. This is an anthology of short stories by your favorite booktubers. You'll also find an introduction from yours truly, and I'm not sure if you knew this, but prior to doing YouTube videos, I like to draw some comics. One of those comics is in this book. There we go. Quite an eventful month. So until next time, stay warm and keep reading.